Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bright Ideas Podcast. As always, I am your host, Trent Deersmid, and I'm here to help you discover what is working in e-commerce by shining a light on the tools, the tactics, and the strategies that are in use by today's most successful entrepreneurs. In episode number 290, you heard Dave Chaffee talk about content marketing strategies for e-commerce. And in today's episode, I'm joined by Taylor Smits, a former corporate guy turned e-commerce aficionado with almost a decade of online selling under his belt. In 2010, he started selling sporting goods and concert tickets online and has since done stints in drop shipping, private label, and Amazon wholesale. While he's not in front, or rather when he's not in front of a screen, Taylor is most likely seeking adventure in one of those Amazon digital nomads. He holds a private pilot's license, scuba certification, and he is an ordained minister. Taylor is on the show with me today to talk about MyFBA Prep, a company he co-founded with two others, which aims to be the largest network of e-commerce third-party logistics centers in the country. And to date, they have over 10 prep centers throughout the country that provide prep, fulfillment, and logistics services to e-commerce sellers. Dave, thank you so much for being on the show. Welcome.
Hi, Trent. How's it going?
Very well, thank you. So let's have it in your own words. Who are you and what do you do? What do you really love to do?
Yeah. My name is Taylor Smits, and what I love to do is all forms of e-commerce. The venture we're here to talk about today, MyFBA Prep, we are a network of prep centers all over the country, as you mentioned, and we provide prep, logistics, and fulfillment services to different types of e-commerce sellers. I don't want to say all types, but many different types of e-commerce sellers. And yeah, again, we aim to be the biggest network of prep centers in the country, and we have been very excited with our growth lately, and very happy to be here to talk to you.
All right, folks, and here's what I want. I want to set expectations for this episode. If you are thinking about selling on Amazon and you haven't figured out how you're going to handle fulfillment yet, or maybe you're already doing it in your garage, or you're wondering, should I do it? Should I get a warehouse? What do I do? We're going to talk to you about how to vet third-party fulfillment centers. If you're going to choose one, how to choose one, what questions you should ask, what things you should look for. So, Dave, as I mentioned, I often get this question, do I need a warehouse? And I generally advise folks who are in the beginning to either do it themselves in their garage, which is how I started, or perhaps if they don't have a garage, or they don't have room in the garage, or they don't want to do that work, perhaps they should work with a 3PL.
Yeah.
So, given that a seller, well, first of all, let's hang out there for a minute. Garage versus 3PL. I'm sure you have some thoughts on that.
I think I have this theory about Amazon sellers, and in a marketplace where there are over 500 million products being sold, don't believe anyone who tells you this way, that way, black or white. So I'm not at all trying to punt the question, but I do think everyone needs to keep an open mind, which is who are you, where you're at, and why that works for you. I'm going throughout this call to give a number of reasons why I think that it makes sense for a lot of intermediate sellers to use a 3PL. But I'll start with the seller journey, which really comes to mind for me. So specifically new sellers, I do recommend that they get to learn the prep process on their own. So for example, my own story, you would have seen boxes and boxes and boxes in my office, in my basement, in the garage. And I think most Amazon sellers can relate to that, and that is their story. At some point, you will come to start to question that.
You mean like when an 18-wheeler is backing up into your driveway and the neighbors are standing in the cul-de-sac wondering what the hell's going on?
Yeah, so I actually personally, whenever a truck showed up to my house, I was kind of proud, like I bet the neighbors think I have like an arcade going in the basement or something. But I would say, Trent, probably more like when your wife starts to make comments about it, and this hobby that's making you money. And I think most people start out selling on Amazon as a hobby until they can get to a full-time job. But this hobby that's making you money is causing strife in your relationships, or people are making comments, or you have to step over a box to find the dog, that sort of thing. So Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And in terms of the seller journey, let's say that someone's got their Amazon business to about 1,000 units a month or 250 a week.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that their average sale price happens to be $25 a unit, because I'm not great at math, and I know that that is $25,000 in revenue a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say that that person decides to spend 4 to 5 hours a week prepping, let's say 250 products a week, which will get you again to that 1,000 units a month number. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so let's just say, for example, that that's free for you to prep it on your own. It's not, but let's say it is. Okay, so you're spending 4 to 5 hours a week prepping on your own. Well, what would that cost you with a prep center? I'll tell you, for our prep center, if you're doing 1,000 units a month, that's going to cost you about $950. So the question becomes, for $950 a month, and you can get 4 to 5 hours a week of your life back, is that worth your time? So that's 16 to 20 hours a month back. So
Mm-hmm.
my advice for someone at that level would be, why don't you take those 20 hours a month back and focus on getting even one new supplier a month, which will take your, let's say one supplier will increase your revenue at that stage, 25,000, 20%, and that gets you to 30,000 a month. So now you're doing 1,200 units or 30,000 in revenue a month. And then you back that out and say, what does that cost me to prep? Well, it's like $1,000. It's like, I think you would take that trade-off any day of the week.
I couldn't agree more. As I've said many, 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 many times to people in person and on the show and in webinars, as the boss, your job's to close deals. Your job is to land suppliers. Your job is not to put tape on boxes. If you're putting tape on boxes, in my opinion, you're doing it wrong, because your time is far, far, far too valuable. So now that you and I have at least both agreed that a third-party prep center is better than doing it yourself in your garage, okay, well, how does a seller go and find them? I don't know where any are. What do I search for? Where is their business directory? What's the phrases on Google? Do I ask around?
Sure, sure. Well, I think all Amazon sellers would probably start on Google, type in FBA prep, try and get rid of the ads, go down to the organics and see what you find there. I give that answer about a C plus. You can, a better answer might be going to a site like Seller Essentials or Web Retailer, which tries not to pick favorites. They're more like aggregators, and they will just list sometimes by state, sometimes by service. Service meaning, are you a wholesaler, are you private label, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a better answer, but you only get extra credit if you actually go through and then call them and start to ask them some questions, which I'm sure we'll get into in a bit. And then my favorite answer is to go to the biggest, baddest Amazon seller you know and ask them about their prep. Now, they may say they own their own warehouse, or they may say, I'm sorry, I don't feel like sharing that information with you. But I always think it's important in Amazon, or in fact, any area of your business life, go to someone who is at the point you want to be. And for those who are really dense in the morning, what I mean is, who's making the most money that you know on Amazon, and ask them. I think that typically will get you the quickest, best answer. And not to take this too far off topic, but I have this theory, and all of the biggest, highest revenue earning Amazon sellers that I know, they all follow terms of service. They all do not feel comfortable skating in the gray or black hat area, because they want their account to be around for a long, long time. So I think that if you kind of trust them and the people who have done it before, you'll find that they are much more conservative, and they're much more logical, methodical, et cetera, et cetera. So I recommend going to someone who you know and trust and saying, hey, where do you get your prep done? And let them tell you a good place to start.
So let's assume somebody doesn't have a referral source, or they do get a referral to a prep center. Now they're in that evaluation phase. What are some of the questions that a seller should be asking a prep center?
Yeah. Well, I think that every prep center can be categorized in one of two ways. There are the mom and pop prep centers, and there are the commercial prep centers. Obviously, my FBA Prep is a commercial prep center, and there are some benefits there. Now, again, if you're starting off, there's nothing wrong with paying your nephew, paying your little brother, as I've done before, et cetera, et cetera. But I think first question to ask is you want to have the answer to the question, is this a mom and pop prep center or is this a commercial prep center? And the larger your business grows, the more it will matter if they're a commercial prep center or not. So, at 1,000 units, it probably isn't important to you. But I do think it's best to get in the beginning with the people that you want to be working with a year from now. So I'll dive into that just a little bit. Well, why commercial prep center? A great question, and one of my favorite questions to ask is, do you have insurance and does it cover my goods in your warehouse? Okay, so instantly mom and pop prep centers are going to be scratching their heads. But the more inventory you send in the example I used earlier, we're talking in revenue, 30,000. So let's say, $20,000 worth of inventory. You don't want that to be, to be an accident to a flood or anything like that. Things can happen. You just want to be insured. So that's important. And then as far as like the questions as you go down the line, it can be quite telling if they have a forklift or not in the prep center, which doesn't seem like a big deal as long as they can get the job done. But it becomes a very big deal when you start sending in a lot of pallets or you need a whole container unloaded. And then I would just look at your past month of shipments and look at the types of ASINs you're selling and say, okay, tell me about how you would do this type of prep. I send in a lot of bundles. How do you do bundles? I have a lot of fragile items. What's your policy there? What does it look like? Could you take some pictures of fragile items that you've used bubble wrap on and send them to me so I know how the finished product looks? And another one just popped into mind. One of my favorite questions is, how do I know if there's a problem with my prep or something that I need to know about? Basically, do you call me? Do I have to call you? Do I find out when it gets sent to Amazon? And the more refined the prep center is, the better their answers to these questions will be. And if you're wondering, well, how do I know if the answer is good or not? Well, how do you feel when they give you the answer? I mean, if you're the one doing your prep now and you want to put, a bottle of water and a bottle of Gatorade together in a bundle, I assume you're going to do that in a poly bag. Great. So if they say that's how they're going to do it, maybe that passes your test. But perhaps a better answer would be, well, we shrink wrap it together, or we have a heat tunnel, which will make it come out looking like it was bought brand new from a store. I mean, that's a really great answer. And those are some of the differentiators between, mom and pop prep centers and then commercial prep centers who will invest in these things, to get the best finished product as possible.
So that's actually a great segue to my next question is, so what type of services, you got the mom and pop prep center versus the commercial prep center. At the high end, at the commercial prep center, what does the portfolio of services actually look like?
So basically you can think of it now as what type of sellers are there. So many of our sellers are Amazon wholesalers, and that's sort of what I've been giving most of these answers, assuming that the people listening or the customer, in this case, an Amazon wholesaler. We also have a lot of private label sellers who end up sending entire containers to our warehouses, but they need a different type of prep. So the wholesale prep is typically standard prep, basically FN SKU label over the UPC. There's more than that, but let's keep it simple. Private label, a lot of times they want carton forwarding and sort of an added benefit of sending it to a prep center as opposed to your house or directly into Amazon, which you can do. But in the beginning, I recommend you send it somewhere else first, because when we check it in, it's like your first quality control test this side of the border. Now, most people are doing it, and I think most of the gurus teaching you how to do private label are getting it right and say, hey, you should have someone inspect it before it gets on the boat in China. But when it comes here, I also think someone should count it for quantity, make sure nothing's broken, etc. So we offer that service, which is like, it's included in what we do, but it's just the inspection, counting the units, etc. And then we do the carton label reforwarding. We are just opening our book prep center, which will be out of Indiana. And so if you're doing any type of book arbitrage, for example, you're using a software like Scout IQ, which is a great one, and you're buying FBM to sell FBA, well, you can send your books in, and when we fill up a box, 40 to 50 pounds, we'll send it into Amazon on your behalf. And then also, if you're a bookseller, if you purchase entire Gaylords and pallets, you can have those delivered to our warehouse. We have the space. We'll sort through them. We'll list them for you, which is specific to book prep services because we don't list for other people. But we'll list your books for you, and you'll go about it that way. So you never have to touch the product. In fact, you won't see it most of the time. And the last sort of customer segment that we like to promote, which rounds out the four, is e-commerce fulfillment. So people selling their own products on their own website. What we do is we use a warehouse management system, which is a software that will log into your website, Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, and about 15 or 20 others. And as people order, we print the order packing slips. We're holding the inventory on the pallets in our warehouses, and then we send it out for you. So that fulfillment piece is becoming a big part of our business as well for those e-commerce sellers out there who have their own website. And one of the things I'm seeing is the shift to the middle, which is the blurring of the lines between I'm an Amazon seller or I'm an e-commerce seller. And Trent, you probably know this from your own business, but many people who sell on their own websites also sell on Amazon and vice versa. It makes sense. So it's nice for them. California is one of our warehouse locations. There's actually 4 in California, all very close to each other. And they specialize at this. But what we're seeing is when we win big Amazon sellers to the California warehouse, they then bring their e-commerce business we never knew about. And that's where I'm kind of coming up with this idea that, hey, wait a minute, there's a lot of guys out there who do both, just as there's a lot of guys out there who do private label and wholesale, for example.
Well, absolutely, because I know in our case, we do FBA, we do FBM, we do Walmart, we do Jet, and we do eBay. So everything except FBA, when we were handling it ourselves, we had probably, I don't know, 1,000 square feet stocked with product, and we did pick, pack, and ship ourselves. And now we're shutting down our warehouse because we're going with you guys. And obviously you have to be able to handle that for us.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when Liz was interviewing you, she asked you a good number of questions around that.
I wouldn't have thought that the more thorough of the two would be her, and that's just because I watch all your interviews and I hear the way you interview people. But she asked many questions. But
she's far more in the weeds than I am. She's the one that runs our Amazon business these days. I have essentially no involvement in it. All right. So with respect to communication, how should a seller, we just going to shoot emails back and forth? Is there a communication system? Is it what should you expect from a professional 3PL for communication?
Yeah. Well, I think fast communication, whatever medium that is, should be the expectation. And there's more than one good way to have fast communication. But for us, in our Preptopia software, basically what it looks like is each shipment gets its own shipment ID, and we have a tracker associated with that shipment, which basically serves as like a Domino's pizza tracker. And so throughout the different stages of the prep process, whether it's in receiving, whether we're doing a quality check, whether it's stuck in inspection or we're prepping it, there's all different stages. And if something goes wrong, you will get a notification. So what that typically looks like is, hey, this customer ordered 20 units and only 10 showed up. So then in the inspection stage, you would get an email from us through our system, which is linked to your order, which says, hey, order number 602, we got the inventory in, but it said out of stock. And so you got this many units less. And then that is basically opening up the conversation, which then goes like this. Do you want us to send everything we have, or do you want us to wait until we get that inventory to send it in? So that's how our communication works. I'll also say many customers email me, one of my partners, our customer service, or we have dedicated customer service reps, which we may have multiple reps coming on soon. And that's a quick way to say, hey, is there an issue here? What's going on? Did it arrive? That sort of thing. But we're trying to automate that. So in the tracker, you won't have to ask or email or call, did my stuff arrive? When it arrives, it goes from receiving to arrived, and then it'll go to the inspection and prep and then shipped out to FBA. All of that should live in the system. And that's really what we've built software-wise to try and solve this problem of how does one customer with inventory in 7 states or 10 warehouses know where all their stuff is. That's a big problem, but we think we've done a pretty good job, and we get great feedback from customers saying, hey, why don't you add this feature? We get feedback from our warehouses saying, well, the customer is asking about this shipment and referring to it as a supplier name, but I only have the order ID and the date. Can we add that into the software? And we say, yeah, let us work on that feature. So
you mentioned Preptopia. Is that your software?
Yeah, so it's our proprietary prep tracking technology, and what it does is it allows the warehouse to be in the back. And so for people who haven't been to a number of prep centers, you typically have computers and offices in the front, and then in the back is like a warehouse or a storage, and it looks kind of like the back of, let's say, a Walmart or something. Mm-hmm. And what we want to do is bring those two together. So we want our warehouse managers or people prepping our customers' inventory to be carrying an iPad, and then with the push of a button say, okay, we have a quantity issue on this one, or something has arrived as broken, or this SKU was not listed in your inventory. How do you want us to handle that? And we want them to be able to do that as they're in front of the inventory, which is, interestingly enough, not the way most prep centers operate. They'll typically write it down on a notepad, take it back in, and then email or call the customer. And we want them to do that all, with one finger. So they can actually push a button on their end. And soon we're going to be launching SMS notifications, which we hope customers will love, but you will be getting prep notifications on your cell phone because we're clicking and saying, this order, this SKU, quantity issue, what do you want us to do? And that'll buzz on your phone, and you'll know somewhere in the country, someone's looking at your inventory and wanting to prep it.
That sounds horrible. I would never want that coming to my phone. but for someone who's at a lower volume, I can see how initially they might think that was pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Well, they can opt, by the way, they can opt for just the email. So no worries there.
So let's talk about pricing. You kind of alluded to pricing before, but let's break it down. How does pricing typically, because obviously in the 3PL space, there's a whole different variety of ways. So I'm not going to ask you to answer how other companies price. Let's just talk about how you do it.
Yeah. So we do subscription pricing, and there are different levels. And as per earlier in our conversation, we do think it's best for sellers to wait until they're at, a couple hundred units a month. So our base plan starts at $250 a month, which gets you 250 standard units. So it starts at about $1 per unit, and it goes down from there whether you sign up for the $1,000 a month plan, $2,000, or $3,500. And then we typically custom quote above 5,000 because we want to know what type of inventory people are sending into us. Some people send in 10,000 units, but it's 100 SKUs, and that's amazing, right? But other people are 7,000 units and 5,000 SKUs, and that's quite a beast. So we'll custom quote that. But yeah, so it's basically the more units you're having prepped, the cost goes down. If you're doing 3,500 to 5,000 units, you can get it 85, 80 cents working with us. And then we do charge more for different types of things. So
like bundles or multi-packs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So in a bundle, for example, if you take 2 units and make them one, and this can be confusing. So the way I look at it is in Seller Central, units out the door, not what's coming in to our warehouse, what's going out to Amazon. And that single ASIN, which is 2 units brought together in one bundle, that will cost on the most basic plan an extra 50 cents. So, and the way we look at it is, well, per unit you send in, you're averaging now 75 cents a unit as opposed to $1, but that bundle is costing $150.
Yep. Okay. What are some of the ways that sellers can get screwed over by a 3PL?
Yeah. If the prep is done wrong in any way, you'll know it, but unfortunately you won't know it till it's too late. And what that means is you won't know it until it gets to Amazon, and then it gets clogged up, and you have to go inside Seller Central and try and fix it. Or even worse, you won't know it until the customer gets it and says, hey, wait a minute, I ordered a blue candle and you sent me a black picture frame. And you're like, somebody's messed up the FNSKU there. But that's kind of little stuff. I would say the worst thing that can happen through a 3PL is just delays. And I remember when we first launched our Florida warehouse, we did a presentation for an awesome group that I know you know of. It's Carlos from Wizards of Amazon.
Group, yeah.
They are amazing. If you have not heard of an Amazon cult, and I say that jokingly, check them out. Go see one of their meetups. No one has ever given away more free content in the Amazon world than Carlos Alvarez of Wizards of Amazon. But we got to speak to some of his customers and his community, because they're not paying customers. They just show up for a free meetup. And Carlos said, these guys have come to me asking for a prep center. I just wanted to introduce you and you guys can speak. And they told us about another prep center that I should say does great work in Florida, does great work. But they were so busy about this time of year. It wasn't quite Q4, but it was about this time of year. And their inventory sat in the parking lot for 2 weeks before it was taken in by the prep center. I'm not talking about the Amazon fulfillment center. I'm saying the prep center. And so those delays are extremely costly. And I can speak to that even further, which is to say that a lot of our biggest customers who only send LTL, 5-10 pallets every week, have switched at this time of year to doing everything SPD, small parcel delivery. So rather than sending an inventory that comes in on pallets, let's say 500 units on a pallet, they're saying, hey, can you guys box this up for us? Which obviously costs more and all that. And you ask yourself, well, why would they do that? And the reason is because delays mean missed sales. And so they're saying we're willing to pay more for our prep in terms of packing materials and all that sort of thing, so that our inventory can actually be there and be selling in the most important time of the year for an Amazon seller. So, I think regardless of which prep center you choose, you should always be able to communicate with them and say, hey, is it okay if I change the way I do this month? I'd really like to send things in SPD because it's Q4, and hopefully there's someone on the other end who can work with you and will answer that. And there's a lot of great prep centers out there who will help with that.
Are there other ways prep centers can monkey around? Can they try and sneak a few extra charges in? Can they overcharge on a unit basis? And how do sellers, make sure that they don't get the wool pulled over their eyes?
Yeah, I think one of the good questions you can ask as you're coming to your final prep centers, as you're trying to select one, is, okay, talk to me about hidden fees. Will I be charged for will I be charged for your time to unload a package? Will I be charged for a pallet if you have to build one? And what we try and do is we say outright, we want to take a human approach. And if your stuff comes in on a pallet, we want to use that pallet to send it out, and we don't want to charge you. And if your stuff comes in 10 boxes and we can get it out in 10 boxes, we don't want to charge you. Are there other ways you can get the wool pulled over your eyes?
That you've seen. I'm not asking you to make stuff up.
Look, I think that if you're very thorough up front in the questions you ask, there shouldn't be any surprises. And getting back to sort of the number one, fast communication should definitely be on your checklist somewhere. You should be able to be having this conversation. Are there any hidden fees that I don't know about that I don't see here? And then if something does come up on your invoice, there's a line item you don't understand, you should be able to get a quick response saying, hey, what's this? Can you fix it? Can you work with us here? So that's what I would say with that.
Okay. And are there any ways that a 3PL can add value to a seller in ways that they might not expect? Like a new seller, they haven't been doing this for very long, so they're coming in, they're thinking, well, they're going to put stuff in boxes and ship it for me. But are there other things that a professional 3PL might bring to the table for them?
Yeah, I think not to beat this point home too much, but I want to talk about the wholesale formula guys, who I think everyone believes are kind of best in class Amazon wholesale guys, and I know that you know them quite well.
I do indeed.
So these guys are great Amazon sellers and do over 7 million in revenue a month, is what they say on their site, and if anything, I believe it's higher than that. And after 5 years of having their own massive warehouse and doing it all on their own, they put this blog post up and they said, we're closing down our warehouse. And I think you got to scratch your head and say, well, why is that? And you got to ask, what's going on here? And they said it very nicely in their own words, but the essence of it is this. It's, you have to ask yourself, what business are you in? And my guess is it's not the prep business. To your earlier point, you should be closing deals. You should be winning suppliers. You should be managing your team. Should you be ordering Scotty peelers and taking stickers off with a heat gun? Probably not. So I can't stress that enough for people who are at a point where they can say, I can trade money for time and get my time back. And then the last thing I'll say about that particular article, that they make the argument, they said, we actually believe in some ways it can be cheaper to use a prep center. And I don't think that's always the case. So I want to be clear about that. But it can be if you're paying your own employees, if you're paying for your insurance, if you're paying for all the supplies, you have fixed costs every month where you have to do X number of units just to make that work out. Mm-hmm. But for a prep center, you can change your plan up and down if you're on a per unit basis or if you're on a subscription level. You can go up and down based on where you're at. So I think it's interesting to consider, okay, what business am I in? And will this actually cost me more money or not? And you might start rethinking it. And there's one other guy who put in one of his posts, which I thought was a great way of phrasing it. He basically was saying, what if I told you that whether you sell 100 units a month or 10,000 units a month, it will take you the same amount of time in prep? And I'm like, well, I don't know. What's the answer? And the answer is a prep center. Because there's a minimum amount of time, 5 to 10 minutes every time you order. We got to communicate to them, hey, this order is coming in our system. You send them, let's say, a purchase order. You click on the state you want it to go to. You make sure that your Amazon user permissions are set up, and you're done. And so whether you're sending in one order of 100 units or whether you're sending in 10,000 units, that prep takes you the same amount of time. So none of this is earth-shattering, but when you start to think in terms of what's the best use of my time, what business am I in, how can I get from where I'm at today to where I want to be next month? I think it becomes an obvious answer that you got to get rid of some of these things. And it's not just prep. There's obviously many other aspects to your Amazon business, but prep is certainly one of them that is easily taken off your plate.
So who is your company good for, and from a seller perspective, and then who shouldn't work with you?
Amazon wholesale sellers, Amazon book sellers, private label people who are sending in, many pallets or containers who want carton forwarding, which we do that at a special price. We don't charge you per unit. We charge you depending on the service, but typically it's per carton. It's a couple bucks per carton. And e-commerce sellers who sell on their own website. Those are our 4 main customer segments that we go after. And the people who aren't good for us, well, I say in the beginning, you should get to learn the difference between, a UPC and an ASIN and FN SKU, and how do you do it. You should definitely get inside Seller Central and learn those shipments. Those are the type of people who should wait until they sign up with us. And then probably the only segment which we're not really set up for is online arbitrage. We had a tax-free warehouse for a while, and we used them, but we just had so many customers. And in the online arbitrage world, you can't control how many units you actually get from whatever site you're sourcing from. And so it just became 50 packages of 10 units a day, and it just became a giant headache. And we said, you know what? We'd really like to focus on the stuff we know we can do very well, like Amazon wholesale or fulfillment. And so we had to put our online arbitrage customers aside and say, please come back to us down the road, or if you change models, but we're not the best for that.
What about retail arbitrage? Does you lop that in with OA?
Retail arbitrage, we probably have 10 retail arbitrage customers who are lucky enough to live near one of our prep centers. If you get on our site, you can see the map on the pricing page of where, at least what states we're in. We don't put specific addresses on there, but if you're lucky enough to live near them, then the warehouse manager has the opportunity to say, you know what, I like that guy. He came, he did a warehouse tour. He told me what kind of inventory he brings. But the one warning I have about retail arbitrage is if you're buying stuff that might not look new, like for example, you're buying it from Nordstrom Rack, or you're buying it from TJ Maxx and it has 10 stickers on it, it's probably not going to work for either party, because our warehouse managers might get frustrated that it's not easy prep, in the sense that we like to know, well, what does getting this right look like? And with brand new items, we know the answer to that. With used items, it's tough to tell. Do you want me to cut off all the tags? Are there stickers on the inside? Do I have to put stuffing in these shoes? So I'd say email me if you're interested in retail arbitrage, and I'll see. It depends.
So do you have an offer for my listeners, something special?
Absolutely. I think there will be a link in the show notes. You can use the link and enter the code BrightIdeas25 for $25 off any subscription you choose. And by all means, shoot me an email, taylor@myfbaprep.com. And somewhere in the email, I want you to tell me your favorite interview that Trent's ever done, Bright Ideas or otherwise. And then we can actually get to know each other on a human level, as opposed to just a customer level. But yeah, Bright Ideas 25, check us out, myfbaprep.com.
All right, Taylor, thank you so much for making some time to be on the show. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Trent. Have a good one.